Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining the To Hell and Back podcast, proudly sponsored by 6 Yards Out and Pearson's Bar. I'm the Lord Supreme host, Nathaniel Whitto, joined by Will and Ant today for a very exciting, fun podcast, hopefully, because Hull City finally won a home match the first time under Liam Rossini. Got lots of stats based on that to read out in a little bit. So, Will and Ant, I assume we're all very happy as Hull fans at the moment. So how are you today? Good.
Yeah, it's been a while since we can actually talk about a home win.
Yeah, first time since October the 5th. But what about you, Will? Are you delighted to be joining us today again?
No, I'm absolutely devastated, to be honest. I was hoping we would lose another 4 goals or something like that. You're not my host, Lord Supreme host.
I'm the host of the people, I think. I hope I can say that. But anyway, let's get on to it. So, Hull City beat QPR Queen's Park Rangers 3-0. And that was the first home win, as you said, since the 5th of October. We hadn't won the previous 7 home matches. It's the first game we've won at home since Liam Rossini took charge of the club, and he's mentioned in many press conferences before this game and after this game that he's, he'd been hoping for that moment for a very long time. So, Ant, we've been talking about the home form on all of the previous podcasts. How big is it for Rossini and the club to finally get that win?
Massive, because I think he'll have been extra. The fact that he'd still not won the first few home games he had, Rossini, I think, will have been getting to him. We know how much he loves the club. We know how much he wants to do well. So not being able to celebrate in front of his home fans, which I think he's actually said in one of his interviews, was something he was desperately looking for. And to do it in an emphatic way, it's a good QPR team. They've come out of form lately, but they were in the top 6 in and around last season-ish, and they have been hovering around there this season. So they are a good side, and we kind of dismantled them, which is, I think, says more about where we're going than it does perhaps where QPR are going. But it's important to finally get that first home win, because obviously going into Cardiff now, we've got that monkey off our backs and can have a bit of less pressure that we perhaps maybe looking at we should be beating kind of thing.
Yeah. Would you second that, Will? Seemed wise to me.
It wasn't too bad, was it, really? City were superb. They were by far the better side. Queen's Park Rangers didn't really turn up, to be honest. I mean, they tried for about 10, 15 minutes at the start of the second half, but for the most part, they weren't really even involved in any way. Probably the best they had attacking was when they went 3-0 down, which I think says a lot about how they played. And Neil Critchley wasn't happy in the post-match press conference either. But it was nice to hear Liam be able to talk about something other than home form, or at least not in the negative anyway.
Yeah, exactly, because that had been mentioned in every press conference. It was starting to play on his mind, and he said it feels like it's been 2 years since he joined the club and didn't get that home win. Of course, it's only really been, was it maybe 4 games he's managed? Of course, we had the World Cup break. So, yeah, absolutely fantastic that we got the win. It sounded as if we did the opposite of what we did against Huddersfield, where we started really slowly against QPR, got that early goal. Connolly even had a chance to score before that. But just want to talk about the tactics of the game. Yeah, absolutely. QPR had 60% possession, whereas the previous home games against Blackpool, Huddersfield, and of course Sunderland, who went down to 10 men, as did Blackpool. They were, and I talked about this on the preview yesterday, those teams were difficult to break down because they sort of parked the bus a bit when we had more the ball, whereas it was the opposite for QPR. So, of course, we got that third goal from them, pushing up higher and not really defending as much as those other teams. So did the QPR trying to have the ball more, maybe make it almost like an away game in a way? Is that why we won the game, do you think, Will?
I think they wanted to actually, unlike most teams who come to the KC, they actually wanted to try and push and control sort of the game. And I think having a high line really, really messed them up. I think they made a massive mistake with that, because it just allowed Connolly to constantly get in behind it. and Connolly had a fantastic game with them. I don't know who it wasn't. It'll been. I think it was Dickey who was mainly against for the most part. And he tore them to pieces. Especially the third goal just shows it all how poor the high line was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you said rightly that Critchley was very upset about that in their press conference. And
he wasn't happy in the post-match press.
Yeah, I always try and watch it, the opposition one, when we win. And it always reminds me of the League One season when they were all so bitter. And maybe it was a little bit today because QPR, perhaps looking at our form, thought they could get something out of the game. And the third goal especially, was complaining that the high line was a big mistake when he had Seri on the ball. Of course, we've mentioned it already, but Connolly got 2 goals. Matt mentioned a few episodes ago he wanted Connolly to score 15 goals till the end of the season. I thought that was a bit unrealistic, but with the start he's had, 2 goals against QPR and just his second proper start. And what are you thinking of Connolly at the moment? Is he one of the best signings we've made even this season?
I like him. I think it's testament to Rosinia that he's obviously managed to get him focused and helping him reach the potential that he obviously thinks he can reach, because he came with some bad rap from the previous clubs, and you can usually tell. And I know like some fans can be bitter about players sometimes, and will just say anything when the player's going. But usually you can tell what kind of player you're signing by the comments underneath the posts on social media. Like we have probably been positive with Josh Emmanuel, for example, so Grimsby will assume they're getting a very good player. Whereas everything was negative with Connolly. So maybe we allowed that maybe they allowed us to be blinkered a little bit in that sense, and expect him not really to hit the ground running. But like Rosinia said, he worked with him at Brighton, he knows what he can do. So if he can bring him here and help him sort of get his career back on track, then we'd all be for that. And judging by his start, even against Sheffield United, he was lucky to score, unlucky not to score the first goal, but he was all game. And that's the kind of player I think we've been missing. Somebody to wind up the opposition, somebody to constantly ask questions and have the opposition's defence, thinking twice, because he's a bit different threat, isn't he, to what we've had this season. Whereas I find Longman on his day can be very good, but still quite predictable. Whereas Aaron Connolly, like as a defender, I think playing against him would be, you don't know what he's going to do from 1 minute to the next. So that probably hurt Nathaniel in his soul, and I'm going to enjoy that moment. But yeah, I think that if he continues in the vein of form he's in, then it takes a bit of the goal scoring burden off Oscar, which looks as though he could be a kind of player, Oscar, who scores in patches rather than throughout the season. And if you've got other players picking up goals here and there, then it's going to win you more games, and then obviously it'll help turn those draws to wins, hopefully. So yeah, I'm happy with his start and hope he continues.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. I've seen people say that Oscar plays better with a front 2. Of course, I think there was a long time when Tete was out injured, and I know he was on the wing, but he's also a striker. And when Tete and Oscar were playing early in the season, that's when we're getting the best out of Oscar. And then, as you said, don't have to rely on him. Maybe, if Oscar and maybe Connolly play better in the front 2. I saw someone mention, of course, with the Irish link, maybe Connolly's a bit like Shane Long. He's going to put himself about. He's not the tallest, but, he's a good threat and got the pace. And maybe Oscar's a bit like Jelavic, because sort of, I don't know, a good finisher, but I don't know whether they have the best dribbling ability. I think that was one thing I was sort of really Jelavic. So if we can get the best out of those 2 and don't have to rely on Oscar, as I think I said in the previous episode, maybe we're relying on him, then that could get the best out of both of them. But of course, I think, it was a fantastic performance. 3 goals and a clean sheet, sort of the complete performance. One other player that had a lot of praise after the game was Callum Elder. So, Will, what did you make of him? And of course, he had big boots to fill after Greaves was out injured.
Yeah, I thought, to be fair, no one had a bad game, really. To be fair, no one had a bad game, but yeah, he very much was impressive, was Callum Elder. Like you say, it was interesting seeing him coming into the side, knowing that we'd sent Brandon Fleming out on loan, who I know a lot of fans are big fans of. and knowing that we're keeping Callum Elder, and there was obviously links. There's been links over the last few days with Toffler from Forest. Obviously, nothing happened with that in the end anyway. But it was nice to see Elder put himself out there and show that he's still a competent and decent fullback and can do it at this level. Because I've always liked Elder. I know he's got a lot of stick and he has had some hit and miss times, but it's nice seeing him play well because I think he's a really nice person as well. As someone who's spoken to him and obviously listened to him in press conferences for West Hull, he comes across as such a nice. But I could listen to him for hours. He comes across as a great person, and it's nice to see him having good performances as well. On Connolly, I love having a fucking little shit house in the team as well.
You need them.
Like him. And
you want them on your team, don't you? You don't want to play against them, but you want them. That's the sort of character you need in the squad. And I think what he said in the press conference, what he said in the press conference and the interview after the game, that he sort of let his standards slip a bit, and he really needed Vicinha to sort of come in and get the best out of him again.
He had said in the post-match game about how Vicinha told him he was being too good. He was being too nice when he first arrived. He was trying to be a good boy. And Vicinha told him, no, act like a little shit. Essentially, he told him to act like he normally does, act a bit of a shithouse. And I think he needs to, and it brings the best out of him. But,
absolutely.
Like I said, no one had a bad game. Nobody had a bad game.
Except QPR, really.
Well, for City anyway.
Yeah. I did. I don't know whether I said this beforehand, but I'm certainly thinking it now, and I said it on the preview, that maybe it's a little bit easier to get that win against a team sort of middle of the table. Of course, Blackpool and Huddersfield, we didn't get the wins there, but they were battling at the bottom of the table. They desperately needed the points, whereas QPR, sort of not really aiming for anything at the moment with the form they're in. So perhaps it's going to be, it was easier against QPR than it's going to be against Cardiff. But I think QPR are a good team. Should have maybe got playoffs a few years ago. Last season didn't really live up to expectations, but had a good push at the start of the year. So I think it's a good statement of intent, and hopefully we can push on, because I think Rossini has definitely improved us, and that's just one more example of how that's happened.
Until Beale left them, they were looking guaranteed to be shouting for a good shout for being in the playoffs, to be fair. They were, when he left them, there was 13 places between us and them, and now obviously we're the next one on the table. Yeah.
Are they just one above us?
They're just one above us, yeah.
Yeah, and of course we do usually struggle against the teams in and around us, but hopefully in a few weeks we're going to be struggling against the teams in and around us who are, 6th and 7th. Hopefully we get up the table
in the playoff fight.
More wins like that, yeah.
No.
And then, of course, clean sheet, absolutely massive. We'll get on to sort of Ingram and the Darlow situation in a little bit, but first home clean sheet this season, first in 15 league games, as we didn't get one last game of last year, and of course another goal conceded in the or two in the FA Cup. So that's another massive thing that I think I'd sort of forgotten about. But hopefully we get another one against Cardiff and start making it a sort of habit under the senior getting clean sheets. So Ant, how important is that?
It's another monkey that we've got off our back in it. Like, we were the only side in the league, I think, that had the clean sheet at home. So it's another one of those things that we've got off, and we can start looking positively at it now. I think with the one thing we can say from Rosenia since he's took over is I think we've only conceded more than twice, I think, is it, since he's taken over. So, it's the polar opposite to what we was under Shotter, where we were just rolling over and having our bellies tickled every game. Yeah. We were giving ourselves mountains to climb with the amount of goals we were conceding. We're having to score 2 to at least draw and 3 to win, and we were never doing that every game, was we? So at the minute, if we're only conceding 1 or keeping clean sheets, which I think we've had, 4 or 5 under Rossi now, it gives us the biggest chance to actually win games, because then you only need to score 1 or 2. So, that set piece goal or that counter-attack goal, it gives us more chance to actually get points on the board. So that was his main job for me when he first came in, was to sort the defence out, and he's done that. We are hard to beat. You can flip the home form around and say we're unbeaten at home in 4 games.
Yeah, I think
we drew 3
you
of them,
can
but
do
we
that.
lost in 4 games. So
when you've won one of them, yeah.
Yeah. So you can twist it into a positive. Yeah, we'd like to have turned those draws into wins, and a couple of games, obviously, with them being down to 10 men, we should have probably gone on and won that. But under Shotter, we lose those games. So there's clear progress. I like the way that we're going. Absolutely. I like the identity of the team, and I think that even going forward, we're looking far more threatening too. So the balance of the side looks like it's there. It's organised, and that leads to these clean sheets. So hopefully we get more of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's great to be a City fan at the moment, really. There's only real positives to talk about on the pitch. Of course, we've only lost 2 under Vecino. One of those was very last-minute goal before the World Cup, and then one against Sheffield United, who are almost definitely going to get promoted. And then, lots of draws and wins, some good goals. And then off the pitch, of course, we've got a great owner, and we've had a pretty successful January transfer window. So I think that's most of the things we want to cover from the QPR game. Really great to get the win. I think we scoring first really helped us in that, and of course going into another home game against Cardiff, you really need to win that first home game if you've got 2 consecutive ones, I think, because then you can take the momentum into the next one rather than you haven't won the first one and then still the second game there's all the more pressure. So to get that off the back is absolutely fantastic. And I mentioned off the pitch things, it's the January transfer window has just ended, had deadline day on Tuesday. So generally, slam shut, exactly, to use a good football cliche there. Rate the transfer window out of 10. Do you think it was a successful one for the club?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah, because I wasn't outside of they've got rid of a lot of players who won't be playing really, and they've brought in a couple of interesting and exciting prospects so far. And obviously, a couple who might coming into the club for a while anyway. And yeah, we missed out on a couple of at the end. But to be honest, I didn't really know who most of them were until they were linked with us, De La Fuerte, for example. But I think we got the main targets we wanted sorted, which was Darlow. Was the main target, I think, on deadline day. Obviously, we wanted to get a couple of others in, but I don't think there were priorities compared to him. And we knew that one was going to happen. It was just waiting for the League Cup semi-finals to be over.
Yeah, that wasn't really a deadline day signing. It was just going to happen on deadline day. The complete, sort of roster that we brought in and out have gone Tyler Smith on loan to Oxford, same with Fleming, and then Emmanuel to Grimsby, Scott to Exeter. For either an undisclosed fee or a free transfer, the clubs wrote different things on their Twitter account. We said that we got some money, whereas Exeter wanted to say it was for free. So I honestly have no idea who's right there. And then Sinek's gone on loan to Talia-Spor for the rest of the season, and Rando Williams left quite early in the window to Bolton. And then, of course, we brought in Malcolm Ebueyi.
Yes.
Is that right? Yes. I thought it was something different, but Malcolm on loan from Crystal Palace.
Ebiowe is how I
was. Thank you. Before the podcast,
just call him Malcolm.
Malcolm, yeah. Before it, I was practicing and I got it right, but Ebiowe. There we go. And then Uriel Cheli from, I can't remember which club it was from Peru, but he's gone straight back to Peru. So we'll talk about that in a little second. And then Carl Darlow. So 4 in and a few more academy players out on loan, and then a fair few on a permanent transfer to some lower league clubs. So, removing the deadwood, as you'd call it, which I always think's a bit sort of derogatory, was probably one of the main things Rossini wanted. He said he wanted a thinner squad.
Yeah, it was more a case like Randall Williams wasn't going to get any game time. Brandon, he wants him to go and get game time elsewhere. And I think it's the same with Tyler Smith as well. He wants him getting game time elsewhere. And James Scott, he was never going to get a chance here as well.
No.
Because he never really showed it, to be fair.
Another transfer we brought in and got injured very quickly. And same with Emmanuel, really. And a lot of those players who've left have had a lot of injury problems.
Yeah, I feel sorry for Emmanuel because he had a really good League One.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And Shep says that League One was a great season for Emmanuel, and it was. And then, of course, Kyle came in and we didn't really look back. But I suppose Deadwood's a bit harsh because a lot of these players are quite young still. and could well go and have a good career. It was just never really going to be for us. And I think we've pretty much got rid of the deadwood that we signed when we had the embargo, because Moncoeur's gone and Williams and those sort of people that never even played last season. And then this year with the new owner, it was never really going to happen. So, Ant, what about you? Was it a successful transfer window for City? I think most people would say it's been very solid.
Yeah, I think from a fan's perspective, I'm fairly happy with that. I think if I was being greedy, I would have liked to have seen Van Heck come in, another right-sided defender, but I'm fine with Alfie. If he gets injured, I think we're quite light on the centre back side of things. But I mean, you've got Figs who obviously can come in. Hopefully, his time out of the spotlight has helped him sort of blend into the team system a bit more now. And like you say, we got rid of the likes of Randall Williams. Andy Cannon went as well, didn't he? And the players that realistically, were wasting their careers here because they were. It gives them a better chance to actually go and make something of themselves, and obviously gets them off our wage bill. And then you look at the loans we've sent out. Tyler Smith, I think, has played well for us this season when he's come on, but he's never realistically going to start. So it's better off to send him elsewhere to get a regular run of games where he can try and find his goal scoring form. The Brandon Fleming one, I think it's an interesting one. I think because he's younger than Elder, they'd rather him go and get experience elsewhere because he's not actually played that many games in his career, has he, Fleming? He's had bad time with injuries, so get him out in League One. No. I do think that Oxford fans have been saying he's been playing quite poorly at the minute. From what I've been reading on Twitter, they've been quite unimpressed with his start, so that's quite interesting. Maybe needs a bit more time to settle in, hopefully. But yeah, overall, very good window. I think I'm excited by the players we've brought in, which is good. I think Darlow's a very competent goalkeeper. He was very good at. I think it was Forest he was at before he got his move to Newcastle, and obviously he's got some Premier League pedigree as well.
Yeah.
And then you've got Malcolm, who's an exciting winger. You've got Connolly, who's hit the ground running. So, and then this Chelly lad, we obviously know nothing about and probably won't do for another year or two. But I trust the club, and if it's one for the future, then fair play. But yeah, it's been a far less quiet window than the summer one, but one that I think was probably needed. We didn't need another very, very busy window, did we?
You mean far more quiet, I assume, and we've signed fewer players. Yeah. Well, but I think it was less quiet than I imagined it was going to be. I think we had a very good squad going into, January, and we brought in 4 players. Only 3 of them are going to play for us. Although I'm, still not convinced. Like, Malcolm might come back in and, play one game and get injured again, as a lot of our wingers do. It's usually wingers that seems to happen to. I think, of course, Tolkas and Aliam and all those.
It was interesting
people.
That we apparently had a little dabble in with Newcastle asking about Ryan Fraser, because at championship level, that would have been some signing.
Absolutely.
Whether or not that was true, I don't know.
I mean,
there's nothing really came of it. Other than the rumor, was it? But...
He downed tools to leave Bournemouth to go to Newcastle, so I'd be surprised if he was getting kicked out with Newcastle already. Or he'd happily
especially by Eddie Howe.
Completely. Yeah. They're in a completely different era now, aren't they, Newcastle, with the new owners? They're signing an entirely different calibre of player, aren't they? Let's be honest.
I don't think he'd be happy with it, though, is the thing.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Well, I think the loans, because it seems rare that in the last few years until very recently that we've had players good enough as sort of second or fringe players to actually go out on loan to EFL sides. So I think going, Smith and Fleming going to the same team, that's going to be quite exciting. If Oxford are ever on the TV until the end of the season, I might tune in and see how they're doing, and hopefully them playing together. I mean, what I'd really want is a Brandon Fleming crossed to Tyler Smith who scores. I want that to happen once. That'd be a good use of the loan system for that. And then signing those players. I think Darlow will be quite an interesting one to see whether Ingram is taken out against Cardiff and maybe plays Darlow. I think that would be slightly unfair, but I doubt we're going to be paying Darlow's probably bigger wages if he's a Premier League player for him to just be on the bench. So that's certainly an interesting one. But then I think the biggest drama on deadline day, as always is for Hull, was, as you said, Conrad de la Fuente from Marseille, a winger. And the drama at the end was that we weren't able to get that over the line, not because of City's fault, but Marseille and Olympiacos, where he'd been on loan, couldn't cut the loan deal short. So that was very frustrating. It was I think maybe even like 1 o'clock in the morning or something. We learned that we weren't going to sign him. But as you said,
I think
it would have just been a bonus. We've already got a lot of wingers. Most of them are injured, but when they come back, I don't think he was going to play over some of these others. Yeah. Absolutely. So I think I'd say it was a 7 out of 10. Maybe if we'd brought in Conrad, I'm just going to call them all by their first names. Same with Oscar, that was a difficult one.
Just easier.
To start the season. And Figueiredo started as Tobias. I think, it'd been a solid window. I would have liked a centre-half, but the defence has improved. I think the start of January, a centre-half was desperately needed, but we've had a few clean sheets and even one at home since then. So we didn't really need that. So a 7 out of 10, but you two, and out of 10, I want a number. Rate it out of
10. Yeah, I'd say 7 out of 10. Like I say, I think I'd like to have seen Van Heck. I'm not too convinced by Figs as a backup in the system that we're playing, but the rest of it you can't fault. So yeah, 7 out of 10.
Fair enough. And what about you, Will? 7 also? I bet you're going to say 7.
I'm going to give it a 7.4 out of 10.
So that would be rounded down to a 7. So that's a 7 out of 10 for all three of us, or 21 out of 30.
No, it's 7.4.
Nonsense. All right, 21.4 out of 30, which is, pretty solid, as I said. So some injury news, or more so players coming back from injury, which is always a positive. Jacob Greaves is going to be back for the Cardiff City game. He was out for the QPR one, but
yay!
But I mean, controversial, but we won 3-0. Elder was one of the highest rated players from everyone who watched the game. Should we drop Elder and bring Greaves back in? But Elder played really well. Because Rossini said if you come into the team and you play well...
The Greaves situation is weird, because I think the most likely person to lose his place will be McLaughlin. It'll be really, really harsh. Because I think McLaughlin's been very, very good since coming in. I thought he was very good against QPR as well. His long diag passes seem to just be like perfect. He's like the centre-back Palo, isn't he?
Whoever you drop, it's harsh, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Cal Melder came in and did very well. And I think maybe having a more natural left-back adds to sort of the balance of the side. And I do know that he obviously only put Greaves in the first place as a fullback because he wanted more height in the side to defend set pieces. But I think we've come to a point where we're relatively good at defending our set pieces now. So he might be a bit more confident. I mean, like you say, you don't change a winning team, do you? I'd maybe let Greavesy have another game off. Like you say, it'd be very, very harsh to drop any of the back four based on the last performance. So, but then again, you would also look at the other side of it and say that Greaves is quite undroppable. But the injuries come at a bad time for him. So,
absolutely. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think maybe if I was Rossini and I was thinking about the selection for Saturday, maybe I'd do something controversial and drop Jones, because I think having Greaves and McLaughlin at defence would be good, and then keep Elder in. But then again, you're dropping a player who wouldn't deserve it because he kept a clean sheet. I think, whichever way it goes, it would be a bit harsh. But McLaughlin and Greaves on the ball, I think, are very good. And I mean, you've probably Greaves would have to come in at some point, but maybe if we don't keep a clean sheet and Elder plays, then maybe you can swap him out there and have, save Greaves through it's going to be a tough game at Stoke, an away game where he's going to need a lot of energy. So I think keeping it as it is, I'm leaning that way. What about you, Will?
I'm not against it. As much as I adore Greaves, I'm not against leaving it the same, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Absolutely, and it certainly isn't broken. But one thing that was broken was my heart when Longman had a back injury and didn't start the game after a very good cameo against Sheffield United. So, I mean, I think we've just said we're going to keep it as it is, but I mean, I would change a winning side and put Longman in every time, but I think just another option to have a bit of pace up front for the last 15 minutes. So I think, yeah, keep it as it is. The same lineup unless there are any other injuries. However, if I was a manager, Longman would be the captain. And then, Malcolm and Pelkas will be back for Stoke. Adama Traore is still sort of going to play some under-21s games. I mean, Aliar's back on the grass as well. I mean, I don't know what back on the grass means. I mean, is that 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away, a week away from playing? I don't know. But, some positive news.
It means he's doing actual training with the squad, essentially, proper training.
I suppose. Or does it mean he's doing just runs by himself in the corner?
He'll have been doing sessions. He'll have been doing, if he was back up, he'll be doing sessions in like the gym and stuff like that prior.
Anyway,
he's back on the actual field doing.
Yeah, as host,
we ask this question on a daily basis, Lee.
We've got to answer this. Where is Joel nowadays? Is this still part of the podcast? Asks Lee. Yes, he's in the group chat.
Somewhere. He's somewhere out there.
He's probably watching.
Isn't he? He's always. It's not an ideal day of the week that we record for Joel. It's quite a nightmare, as you can imagine, trying to get 3 people on the same night that are available, especially when like you've got different. So like for example, I'm full time, but I've got 2 kids. It's very tough, and Joel's always busy. I think if we changed it to a different day, Joel would always be on, and then I probably wouldn't be. So it's just one of those situations. We might look at changing, obviously, when we record, based on. I mean, I should be getting a new job soon, so it might be able to change soon. We'll have a look.
Cool. Well, enough of your life story.
I like Thursdays.
We've got to talk about Longman. So Danny Blanchard says, bring Longman in, but would you really drop Longman after his performance on Saturday? Now, as someone who didn't watch the game, did Tufan play well? I don't know. He basically almost scored against QPR with the own goal. He'll sort of claim that was all him. So I don't think so. Don't change a winning team.
I'm well in the camp that Tufan is a very good option to use when we're at home, because we need that kind of player to unlock the defense or be an extra goal threat. I like, maybe not so much. Perhaps not away at Stoke. Might not be the kind of Tufan game. That's literally the can he do it on a Tuesday night in Stoke kind of situation, isn't it? But it's for me, Longman's a good player, and he's just so inconsistent, isn't he, at the minute? Like one minute he looks like he comes on and he's beating the fullback for fun and getting the ball in the box. And then some games he just can't get into it. And I don't know, maybe it's perhaps the fullbacks he's coming up against. But for me, I would start Tufan still.
Yeah, fair enough. Adrian Wright from West Hull FM says, tell Will to stop swearing so we can use it on the radio. We're just going to have to edit it all out. So sorry, Adi. And then, that I think... and you were responding.
I'm sorry, boss.
Yeah, it's descending into chaos again. Ian says we should send Longman out on loan. That's the only way he'll get game time. Well, I think he's played probably the most minutes of any winger this season for City. So, I'm not saying that's... So, he's the only one who's not getting injured.
His contract.
He's probably played probably like somewhere around the most games of any players in the squad this season, but is that down to injury? Really,
it's definitely down to injury.
So it's one of those. I mean, we know how good he can be. It's just a frustrating player, isn't he, Longman? He's going to be the new Wilkes, isn't he?
I was just about to say exactly the same thing. It reminds me of a certain Malik Wilkes. But let's get off Longman and injuries and transfer news and talk ahead to the Cardiff City match. Cardiff, no wins since the last time we played them, which is even before the World Cup. I think it's 8 or 9 games, and they're rubbish. So how are we going to mess this one up? Because that is typical City to give a team that needs a win. Of course, they haven't won in ages. So are you feeling confident? Because we should do, right? We should be confident.
I mean, we should be, yeah. Finally ended the hoodoo at home. I mean, the team should be full of confidence now. Finally, actually going forward, and it's not like even just that we win at home. It's that we can keep a clean sheet at home. It's that we can dominate a game completely like that at home and take our chances. And against a team that, like you say, is not in the best of form. I know we always like to go typical City because it's the very easy thing to do, and it'll be used if we lose.
Absolutely.
Oh, if we're going to win, we're going to smash it. Another 3-0.
Yeah, I think that I'd like to be confident and say it's going to happen, but because of the amount of draws Cardiff and the amount of draws we have had recently, I think a draw is probably the most likely result. Curse says 1-1 prediction. I think that's probably is the most likely prediction. But we've just thumped Queen's Park Rangers. Surely we're going to get another home win, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking about formulating this answer in a way that doesn't make me seem hypocritical. So we have to go into that game confident because we've won 3-0. However, I do think Cardiff are going to be one of those sides similar to Huddersfield where, they're going to probably try and limit us, play for a point essentially, or try and smash and grab it. And we've proven lately that we can't really break these teams down at home. I think QPR tried to pull them and try and ended up that battle. Cardiff are going to try and frustrate us, and they've got a new manager who's going to want to try and just start getting points on the board to get them away from the bottom three. And like you say, it's all the typical City syndrome. But to me, I just think we've got too much in the squad. I just look at the starting 11 at the minute, and I just think, how can we not win? And it's been a while since I've looked at a City team and thought that in a game. I just think that in terms of a squad, we are so. The league position isn't where this squad deserves to be, and I think this is now that win against QPR could be that flagship moment where it really kicks in and we take that momentum forwards, and hopefully we get another 2-3-0 against Cardiff, and then we can go into a bit of confidence against Stoke, and then we've got a tough game against Norwich, and it's getting as many points on the board and being in amongst that mid-table mix. And I do think that we will beat Cardiff, and I do think it will be. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to say 2-1.
2-1. So not 2-1. Another clean sheet, but I'd certainly take a 2-1. I think it will be tight. Sabri Lamouchi, who is the former manager of Nottingham Forest, he's the new Cardiff manager. They didn't have much of the ball at Luton, but lost on Tuesday night a last-minute goal from Adebayo there. So I think it will be a tight game. They're going to defend deep like Blackpool and Huddersfield did, but yeah, I think Connolly's he's in great form. Same with Oscar. Surely one of those two strikers will hopefully get us the first goal again, and then we can push on from there. I think if Cardiff score first, or it's a long time before anyone scores, could be a tight, nervy finish.
I feel like as an episode, we've not heaped enough praise on Seri either. I think.
Oh yes, shall we take 5 minutes just to talk about how good Seri is?
Need to.
Can we post just like a video of Seri highlights for about 5 minutes? I love the guy. I think he had a tough start, but given his interview with Baz, I think it's clear that he's loving his new role with Rossi, and it's really showing the kind of player that we expected to be signing, and he's just running games at the minute. It's lovely to see.
Yeah. Or at least he's enjoying not being managed by Shotta, because it was basically, that interview was basically criticising how bad their management was under Shotta, saying we didn't really, or at least implying that it wasn't really a proper system. And, of course, with the way results went, that was probably true. And yeah, controlling the games with more possession is exactly the sort of thing he likes to do. But, we don't really need to talk about Seri because it's just so obvious.
Look at him.
Very handsome, lovely man. Absolutely.
For our audio viewers, Will's just shown a picture of John Michael Surrey.
That's very good. Very good.
Those glasses are to die for.
Well, I mean, Seri is always a shoe-in for our lineup, and he's always a shoe-in for my joint lineup. I did a combined one of us and the Bluebirds. So this is your opportunity to be mean to me again and criticise my choices. Sorry, Ant, you've been erased from the picture here. So Darlow in goal, Greaves, McLaughlin, Cedric Kipray and Cyrus Christie, Seri in midfield, Slater, Ryan Wintle of Cardiff, Connolly, Robinson, the winger for Cardiff, and Oscar up front. So is that awful again, or is it fine?
Ingram slander.
I don't want to be mean, but how can you have any of Cardiff's defence
Well, because our defence over the course of a season has been quite
No,
poor.
you see, I watched the preview yesterday, Nathaniel, and I thought your logic for saying that our defence was poor is basing us under Shotter. Since Rozzy, our defence has been very good.
Yeah, exactly. This is the problem.
But also, I am doing what Football Cliches podcast said a few episodes ago. That basically, when you do a combined lineup, it's nonsense, and it is nonsense here. But you've got to have one. You've got to have one player from each team in at least one in midfield and one in defence. Otherwise, what's the point? So unless we play Wigan again, which I don't think we're going to do, who are bottom of the league, we're not going to have one where it's all 11 whole players. Maybe when we play Burnley, it could be 11 Burnley players because they're just so good. But yeah, but I don't think it's as controversial because
it's very okay to our Burnley side.
Maybe he would. But
I think putting Darlow in, considering we've not actually seen him play, is very brave.
Yeah, I didn't know about that one because he might suck. But
I mean, Ingram has been so good this season, and I don't get why we expect that he's going to be instantly dropped. He's been even like we had question marks over his distribution under the new possession-based play out from the back style as he wants to do, and I think even now he's showing improvements in his passing as well. Like Rozzy said, he was even impressed. I mean, the goal, the third goal, was it when Connolly gets through on goal after the Seri pass? When Rozzy even said himself that Ingram could have hit that long and he chose not to. He played it into the middle to Seri, who then sees the run of Connolly. So we don't score that if he hits it long. So he's learning the system and he's got better. And I don't think I think Darlow will really struggle to get in the team. I think he's been made aware that he's got a battle on for the number one spot. It'll be similar to how them and Baxter were. It'll be a case of he'll just be randomly dropped at one point and we'll be like, why? And then he'll just probably have a run of games. It's very bizarre.
Absolutely, it's one of those debates that I think City fans are going to have an awful lot, and it was the same when we were comparing Ingram and Baxter. I think because of the Premier League experience, Darlow might just have the edge, but it will be difficult to get back into the team, especially a goalkeeper. It's difficult because there's only that one spot. Nshep asks, has Baxter gone back to Chelsea? Yes,
he has. It's
not been officially announced.
Didn't Baz say he was still here? He's gone back to Chelsea for. He's gone back to Chelsea for treatment, hasn't he? But he's still technically our player.
The club haven't announced it. I shouldn't really say this.
Don't say it then. What lovely weather we're having at the moment. Talk about literally anything else. Well, even if
he's definitely not gone back. He's definitely not gone back.
Will's breaching his NDA.
You've saved it there. I mean, even if Baxter was still Baxter is still at the club, but he's not
Will's
going
media
to play.
Pass revoked.
He's not going to play over Darlow and Ingram because he's still injured for another month or two. So that's a shame about Will's media career. But me and Ant, we've still got a shot. So I mean, I don't really know whether there's anything else to mention. We're just going to try and move past that as quickly as possible. Ant, you said it was going to be 2-1. Will, make these your final words, for the podcast, because we're kicking you off, of course. What's the score going to be on Saturday? If you get it right, you can stay.
3-0.
3-0 to which team?
Yeah. Cardiff, no Hull.
Cool. I will go 1-0 as that's what I said yesterday. I think it's going to be a very tight game. Cardiff are not going to have much of the ball, and we have struggled to break teams down. But with the the two good strikers we've got at the moment up front scoring goals, I think we'll be able to get an early goal perhaps. But then it might be a bit nervy and tight after that potentially, or before we score. So thanks again for everyone who's commented. I hope, Will, you've enjoyed your time in the media, and here's to many more lovely episodes with you. So thanks for your contributions. Thanks everyone for commenting and liking. We really appreciate it, and we'll be back next week. Any final words, Will?
I have control of this account. I will just close it if you kick me off.
Okay, so I mean, a bit of a sour note to end on, really, threatening the Lord Supreme Host, but fair enough, right? So yeah, thanks very much for everyone for listening, and we'll see you again next week.